Hey folks, thanks for joining us again with House of Folk Art. And I'm here with Mike Smith, legendary folk art dealer. Hello, folk art man here. Tell me some artists that you worked with.
I mean, I guess the one that inspired me the most was James Harold Jennings, who was a North Carolina artist that lived near Mount Pilot. And he was a guy that lived in an enclave of school buses. Most primitive living circumstances I've ever seen another human being in, short of a permanent camp out.
So no house. He lived in school buses.
No, he had a house. His mother left him a house, but he chose to build windmills and knickknacks and put them on the side of the road and sell them to people. And the house was up on a hill, and he wanted to be near where his stuff was, so he bought an old school bus and moved into that, and then another school bus, and another school bus. There were 3 or 4 of them out there. He had a campfire, a bunch of moth-eaten cats with ticks the size of quarters, no electricity, no running water.
Hold on, what year was this?
Oh, he started in, I guess, the mid-'80s. And I met him 91, 90, something like that.
Jesus.
And he had an old bicycle that he would ride up and down the road to go to the grocery store or wherever he wanted to go. But he started started with windmills and then kind of went from there. And also Howard Finster, who's probably one of the better known artists to the general public. I got to know him a little bit. I was in the rep business, it was a sales force out of Nashville, and we called on all these mass merchandisers in the South, like Rose's store, Walmart, or whatever. I would go to all these different states, and people started telling me about artists. I'd go visit the artists, and before you know it, I was spending more time visiting the artists than I was doing my job. So eventually, I just decided I'm really interested in this. I'm going to make a go of it. Because every time I'd pick up a piece of art, a friend of mine would say, God, I love that. Can you get me one? And I'd just make these southern swings. I'd go everywhere, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, make a circuit. And a lot of the artists that you sell at the auction house are people I got to meet. And unfortunately, most of them are gone. And really the reason is a lot of the folk artists got started late in life because they retired or they were injured or sick or whatever, and they couldn't do their regular job anymore, like Mose Tolliver. Mose Tolliver was working in a warehouse, and a big slab of marble landed on his legs, and he was crippled. So during his rehabilitation, he started painting, and people would bring him house paint, pieces of plywood, and before you know it, that's, what made him famous. And he was getting visits from Nancy Reagan, and art collectors, famous musicians would come see him. But at any rate, a lot of these artists are gone.
So when you were going to see James Harold Jennings, did you have a number of pieces in mind you were going to buy, or were you just like, I'm buying everything I see? How'd that go?
When I first met James, it was curiosity about who this crazy guy living out across from Mount Pilot on Spainhour Mill Road, living in the middle of a circle of old school buses. And so it was more of a fascination with him as an individual. And then you'd start to see things that were really cool. And so I didn't have a shopping list when I met him because I didn't really know what all he did.
Right.
But eventually when I got close to him, I would buy a few things for myself. And like I said, I had friends that would say, gosh, could you get me one of those? Does he do that? Does he do this? Does he do that? And before you know it, I was doing regular business with him. One summer, I guess I was up there at least once a week, hanging with him and taking him stuff because he had to have everything brought in from outside. He didn't have a car. He had a bicycle.
So people brought him paint. They brought him the wood.
Oh, and then there was a guy that was a carpenter, and he would bring him loads of scrap wood. Literally in the back of a truck, he would dump, like a dump truck. He would dump a pile, wow, 6 feet high of wood scraps.
Wow.
And then
imagine all the scraps from an apartment building.
Yeah,
build.
that were being
I mean,
built
that would
up.
be a
Yeah.
lifetime. That would, well, for these guys, probably
Yeah.
last them 2 weeks, but
Well, you know, and then people would bring him old house paint and stuff, and you can tell by his earlier work when he was using old house paint like enamel, and then you know ultimately he was going to Walmart buying
acrylic.
acrylic stuff.
And the tubes. Ugh.
Yeah,
Ugh,
yeah, or
gross.
the little pipe things. So, did you know you have a dog wandering around in here, man?
I know he's been here the whole time.
Yeah, it's the excitement of having me here. That's what it is.
Do you know what his name is?
Well, you told me, and I've already forgotten it.
So his name's Tig.
Tig, T-I-G.
And that happens to be one of my filler words.
Your filler word.
Biggie, biggie, divine, fine, ticket, biggie, divine, 10, 15, 20, divine, 30, divine, 5, 40, divine, 5, 50.
Oh.
Did you check? Did you?
Filler word. That was pretty cool.
Biggie, biggie, divine, fine, ticket, biggie, divine, 10, tickety, biggity, divine, 10.
Do you learn that in auctioneer school?
No, hell no.
Well, where
Are
did
you crazy?
Did you learn that from your dad?
No, he sucks at auctioneering. I can bust him with a baseball bat.
Well, what?
I taught myself.
Oh, okay.
Well, little did I know I knew how to do it. So
Yeah.
when you go to auction school back then, it was 60 people,
Yeah.
and it was a 9-day course.
Yeah.
The very first thing that we did, we stood in a line because we had to complete our paperwork.
Right.
They said, bring a tape recorder. So you had to buy this $35 tape recorder and a blank tape. The first thing you did, you went to one table. So a big ass line, 60 people. So you go
Right.
to one table
Right.
and you complete your paperwork. You go to the next table, they give you a blank cassette tape because you had to have the recorder. You know what the third table was?
No.
One of the instructors, and they had a little wooden 3-legged pig. And you know what you had to do?
What?
You had to sell the 3-legged pig in front of everybody. That is the first thing you did at auctioneering school. There were people crying, Mike,
Why? You mean
because they got stage fright. They don't want to talk in front of people.
okay.
Now you got a bid call in front of somebody.
Yeah.
So I sit down and I said, okay. Oh, you had to say, I'm Matt Ledbetter and I'm going to sell the 3-legged pig. Now I got to be 10, now I got to be 20, 20, now I got to be 30, 35, now I got to be 35. What to go? 35. And it was just like,
Well, you should be teaching.
well, that's what I did. So 9 days of the course, people on the microphone crying because they don't know how to bid call. It was wild. And you know what? On the state exam, 0 bid calling.
Wow.
0. It's all rules and regulations. But the bid call is sometimes the hardest part to get of the live auction.
I would
right?
think so.
And so, well, the hardest thing to do is get the merchandise to sell.
Yeah.
But in the brain, the hardest thing to do is say 10, 15, 20, 25, 30.
Right.
That's all you got to do. So I did. I developed a course. I got home. I said, why didn't they know how to do this? I got online. There's nothing. So learntochant.com was born.
Cool.
So I teach people how to say, repeat after me. Huda,
Huda,
bidda,
bidda,
bowda,
bowda,
35.
35.
Who, the bit about 35 to 45, 50.
Dang.
It's that easy.
And that's without drugs or.
Well, I am drinking at 12 o'clock. Yeah.
That's true.